All right, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be doing notes number 2 for this week. It's called Parallel Lines, Finding Angles. So we're going to start off by having a little bit of fun here, right, in quotes. And so the idea was, yesterday we learned that there's basically 3 types of angles that happen with parallel lines. We have corresponding, we have alternate, and we have consecutive. And so if you look at the letters here, right, if these are my parallel lines, so these are my parallel lines, remember this symbol stands for parallel, then that means I have these 2 angles. Now, if you look at these 2 angles, they're in the exact same position. Look, they're like made at the bottom, if I were to stretch it out. They're in the same position. And the good thing about corresponding angles, which is what they are, because they're in the same spot, corresponding angles, is the fact that look at their measurements. If I were to actually measure these angles, let's say this is 100 degrees, then this one would also measure to be 100 degrees. And so the rule is this. Yesterday we were worried about, all right, what's the name? Well, now we're going to learn the rule that goes with it. Well, corresponding angles are automatically equal to each other. That's the rule right there. Corresponding means they're equal to each other. Now, look at these 2 lines here. So if these are my parallel lines, then the angles that I'm creating are these right here. Now notice these angles. This one's a little bit wider. This is actually obtuse compared to this one that's acute. So there's no way that they can be equal to each other. This one's a little bit bigger. But again, look, if I were to cover one side up, I still see both angles. They're both between the lines, so that means these are consecutive angles, and they're consecutive interior, but we're just going to write consecutive. And the rule's a little bit different for this one. When they're consecutive, check it out. This one, let's say, measures 60, and then if I were to measure this angle, it would measure 120. Put these 2 numbers together, if I add them up, then I get 180 degrees. So ladies and gentlemen, when you're dealing with consecutive angles, the rule is they add up to 180. Remember, we have a name for that. It's called supplementary. Now, for our last angle, or set of lines here for the letter N, if these are my parallel lines, see, they don't make any contact. This is the transversal. So I look at this angle and I look at this angle. Well, again, look, there's that Z pattern. Whenever we have that Z pattern, that means this is the alternate. And these are alternate interior, but I just want to work with the concept of alternate. Well, again, if I were to measure this angle, let's say it measures 50 degrees. And then if I were to measure this one, it would also measure 50 degrees. And so the rule is whenever you have alternate angles, and remember, we recognize them. If I cover the transversal, look at that, I only see one of them. Or if I cover it from the other side, I only see one of them. So feel free to do that. Get a little piece of paper. You can do that on your laptop there. So they're equal to each other. That's the rule that goes with alternate. So corresponding, they're equal. Consecutive, 180, they add up to that. And then alternate, they're equal to each other. So here are the same rules, just kind of spelled out for you a little bit differently, just kind of the way they were yesterday. So if corresponding, keep in mind, if they're corresponding, they're in the same spot, same position, they're equal to each other. That's the key. Anything that says alternate, look, whether it's interior, exterior, it doesn't matter. As long as it says alternate, and remember, we recognize alternate because I cover one side and I only see one angle. With corresponding, if I cover one side, I'll still see both. Or they both disappear, however you want to think of it. So again, look at this. Alternate, they're also equal. So a lot of equality. Corresponding and alternate automatically equal. Consecutive is the only one you have to watch out for. Because remember, with consecutive, we add the 2 angles. Look at that. That's what they're doing here. They're adding them up, and it equals 180 degrees. So this is what we call supplementary. So those are the rules that we're going to be working with. So we're kind of playing the name game, and once we apply the name, then we know what to do with it. We'll either know to make them equal, add them to 180, or make them equal to each other, depending on what kind they are. So look at the first 2 problems here, and luckily we have to see the chart. So when you're doing your notes, or sorry, your assignment today, make sure you have this note side by side with your CUDA work. We do definitely need to see this. It's a lot like the name game from yesterday, but that way we have the rules that go with each one. So here we go. So it says, find the measure of each angle indicated. So your first few problems on your classwork look exactly like this. So I have this angle, and I have this angle. Well, if you think about the name game from yesterday, these are, look at that, exterior. They're both interior, And if they're both interior, well, I know it's one of these two here. Corresponding's out, exterior's out. And then if I cover one side, look, one of my angles disappears completely. Well, we said when that happens, these are alternate interior angles. But that's not what matters. What matters is the rule for today. If we said they're alternate, then we said alternates are automatically equal to each other. So if this is 64, then what's the missing angle? 64. All right. Now, and obviously your assignment's going to be multiple choice, so we would just look for that answer very carefully. Now in this one it says, we'll find the measure of each angle indicated once again. And so when we do that, well, look at this problem. We're going to mark it. So we have this one, and we have this one. Well, let's see. Exterior, interior, exterior. So they're both interior again. So that means it's one of these two. If I were to cover one side, I still see both. Or if I cover this side, they both disappear. So the fact that this is happening means these are consecutive interior angles. And if they're consecutive interior, well, just remember the rule. The rule says add them up and it equals 180. So I'm going to add them up and it equals 180. So look, I have a question mark. I could put an X there for my question mark because I don't know what it is. I could put a 122 here. And so look, all I have to do is just take away that 122. Check that number on my calculator here. Let's see, 180 take away 122. And we get an answer of 58. And there's my missing angle right here, 58. Remember, they have to add up to 180. And then finally for our last two here, same concept, except a little bit of algebra mixed in. It's all right. It's not too bad. So remember, this is automatically 90. Keep that in mind anytime you see that little square there. And so for this one, look, they gave me this angle. They gave me this angle. But that's exterior, interior, exterior. So look at that. We have one interior, one exterior. Well, that doesn't happen with alternate or with consecutive. The only option here is corresponding. So let me just make sure they're in the same spot. Yes, this is the bottom left, bottom left. So then, ladies and gentlemen, these are corresponding angles. And according to the rule, they're equal to each other. Well then, look, you already said the rule, they're equal. Then just write each one out. See, I have a 90 and I have a 46x minus 2. Doesn't matter how weird it looks. We write it out exactly the way it is, but look, they're equal to each other. And now I'm just going to do my basics. Add a 2 to both sides. So 46x equals, look at that equals, we're keeping it all right there. 90 plus 2 is 92. And now I'm just going to divide by 46. So basic algebra here, divide by 46. And x is equal to 2. And there's my answer. All right. So last one here. Now I'm looking at this angle, looking at that one. Well, again, look, exterior, interior, exterior. They're both interior. So they're either alternate or consecutive. Those are my only two options. And now look. If I block one side out, I still see them both. So if I still see them both, that means these are consecutive interior. And what did we say about consecutive interior? We said they add up to 180. So I'm going to put a plus sign, I'm going to put an equals, I'm going to put a 180. Notice I don't really care about the angles yet, but now I do. So the first angle is 18x plus 4. My second angle is 50. You don't have as many of these problems on your assignment for today, but you do have some. So make sure you're writing things down. So here we go. I'm going to combine these two first because notice here's my equal sign. I don't need to go over there yet, so just straight combination. So 18x plus 54 is equal to 180. But you see, now I need to move over. So I'm going to take away that 54 from both sides. 18x is now equal to, well, let's see, 180 take away 54 is now 126. And then our last step is divide by that 18. And so, ladies and gentlemen, x is equal to 7. And again, the problems on your assignment are multiple choice. You just have to look carefully. So make sure, again, that you have that list up here, right next to you when you're doing your notes. It's going to make it a lot easier. And then make sure you're writing these out. These take a little bit longer. Do not do them in your head. These up here may be a little bit easier, but make sure you're working these out on paper. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have a good day, and once again, stay safe.